Welcome to Dr. Khadar Lifestyle.
I'll give you a brief introduction how the human race came along. When humans started as gatherers, they were actually gathering tubers, fruits, vegetables, and they were not even cooking. They were just eating like that. And their nutrition was not enough, especially basic energy yielding reactions as to burn glucose to give us energy. So glucose has to be in the blood and each and every cell, and oxygen has to come in, burn glucose and give energy, releasing carbon dioxide. So we breathe out carbon dioxide, we breathe in oxygen. So somewhere down the road, humans figured out when they find fire and then they started cooking. So once they associated with fire and cooking, slowly how we did it happen, a lot of theories are around, but they just say it happened. And then once they started cooking, half baking, all this, the history clearly indicates that their health started increasing. So the number of people moving around and human body is a slow moving animal, so they were actually still gathering things, but they were roasting, cooking, boiling. All these activities came into it happened in over thousands of years, not overnight. They did not figure out all these things together. And then came slowly the invention of tools like stones or arrows and all these, slowly thousands of years. And then the technology and the hand mind coordination, the thought process, evolution of thinking, everything started happening. And so initially, from long time, like since the birth of human race, took long time for people to figure out how to cook all these things. This is the huge time period. And then slowly they figured out that, oh, burnt animals they could eat, and then they started hunting animals and eating. All these things happened over a period of time all over the continents. It's not just in India, in America, or New Zealand, whatever, wherever places. So depending upon the local available fauna and flora, these things started happening. So over a period of say 5,000, 6,000 years, so in the Indian continent, and we supposed to have a lot of literature generated long ago, all those things totally translated into various kinds of food materials. And there's a lot of descriptions of food in our Indian literature, starting from Puranas and mythology, whatever facts or history, whatever you name it. So in this travel, human race became from being a vegetarian animal to omnivorous animal, and of late, I believe human being becoming completely carnivorous. Though whether people like it or not, this is the path that human race has followed. But somewhere down the road in India, the rishis or sadhakas or whatever you call, the concept of meditation came into picture, and then they declared, no, human race is not meant to eat meat. And that is the first time again in the history of long millennia, a settled civilized society declaring that humans should be vegetarian. And there has been a constant continuous push in Indian history to make people vegetarians. So this is a cycle going around. So initially we were vegetarians for a long period of time because the way we are born, we didn't have the wherewithal to, hunt, to kill. Of course, now we have GPS hunting whales and eating like devils now. That's a separate issue. So you understand this is the picture. And in between, the protein, the concept of high carbohydrate, the concept of fats, all these so-called nutritional values, and we had bone problems. Then all of a sudden they discovered vitamin C, ascorbic acid. So like this, the human history is punctured with a lot of different events, and slowly human race gathered the information. But then the last 300 years, human race has completely gone out of track in understanding things properly, because the concept of business came into picture, and business and advertisements and selling their products and things like that. So over a period of 100 years, last 100 years, the whole human race became completely industrialized in the production of food, in the processing of the food, and then centralizing the food industry. Slowly food production became the biggest business, and in fact food politics is controlling the whole world right now. So this is the brief background that we have to understand the next 15 to 30 minutes of our lecture. So what did happen? Then over a period of last, say, from 1970s to 1985, 1990, in America, they had actually, in the name of biotechnology, figured out how to produce more milk from cows. Though they do not have cows indigenously, they actually took cows from India and then manipulated hybrid varieties as well as genetic manipulations, and then somehow managed to make milk in large quantities from an animal which can give 1 or 1.5 liters when a baby is born. And the milk is actually meant naturally to the calf. But then somehow people started drinking cow's milk as a food, and then started feeding their babies. Instead of they feeding the babies in America, the mothers feeding the babies, they started feeding the bottle babies. And they're called bottle babies. The milk, unnatural milk, started being fed, and then lo and behold, in a matter of 10, 15 years, all the girls in America started menstruating at the age of 9, 8. So all over the world, the pattern started being copied, and all the people started feeding their babies this unnatural milk. And then now look at it, whole world, the age of menstruation, which was 14, 15 in a natural condition, has come down to 9, 10 all over the world. So the doctors, the nutritionists, the scientists, the universities have no time to address this important observation. No one till today has been able to question why this is happening. That means our attention is completely in a different place. So we're talking about rich carbohydrates, rich proteins, rich fat, omega acid, this acid, that acid. See, the concept of nutrition is completely gone out of the track. Our basic things are not even addressed, and we are talking about different complicated nonsense. So that means if you stop giving milk to the human race, which has actually resulted in three kinds of imbalances. One is microbial imbalance, another is glucose imbalance, another is hormonal imbalance. And the last one is what is mainly, there is a sound coming somewhere. Uh, the hormonal imbalance is the main reason why all women are menstruating very early, and as well as their menstrual cycles are being disturbed, and lot of polycystic ovaries, fibroids, breast tumors, all these issues have propped up in the last 30, 40 years. But then the doctors and scientists are looking at in a peripheral manner, and then trying to remove the breast, remove the fibroid, remove the uterus. Oh, so this is what the science is all about. This is what is the technology all about. But in fact, if only if the whole human race stops using milk, I can close down 60% of the hospitals. Period. No two things about it. It's such a simple revelation for me that the milk caused all this imbalance, hormone imbalance, because hormones are chemicals that are present in any animal in a very small quantities, overlooking many of the biochemical reactions step by step, allowing them to go to a place where it should go and controlling the rate at which things should happen. All these issues are in the hands of very small amounts of this steroidal hormones. And many of the hormone balance is completely disturbed when you take the milk, because the milk, the produced milk, is disturbing this, and then we are screwed up. Most of our health is gone. And I have been treating thousands and thousands of kids, making them realize that if you stop drinking milk, most of the problems of the growth patterns fall back to naturally. So you want to feed the babies the right milk, and that is from sesame seeds, from finger millet, or from foxtail millet, because these do not have the disturbing nature of the hormones. They aid the biochemical processes for developing the kids' growth in the right manner. So, despite all these rich nations having everything figured out in the name of protein, fat, and vitamins, every tablets, every supplement given, still these things are happening. And all the women who have actually gotten into adolescent and their menstrual cycles going haywire and taking again steroidal tablets and screwing up their physiology much more. And I can give you one blatant example of women hormone imbalances. 80% of the women have upper lips hair, which is actually directly telling the human race that the testosterone and estrogen balance is disturbed in the human race. And it is visible in women, and in men it is not visible because the sperm count has started going down all over the world. In fact, German have almost got to the nil count because their baby growth is all come to 5% or so. The average age in Germany is now 45, 50 or 60. The babies are not born properly. If that is all that could happen, it would have been okay. But then now, wherever there are babies born, there are being born as autistic or differently abled. In Hindi, we call buddhimandya. So if there is no portion when the baby is born, that is when the mother and father are meeting before the baby is birth. If the sperm is not healthy, if the ovary is not healthy, and the material that they are feeding when the baby is born, from the embryo to the baby, when the baby is growing, if the right materials, the right food is not there, this is what happens. In fact, nowadays, every fourth baby, I guess, has some problem or the other in the heart. There is, in fact, 3 to 4 babies are born holes in the heart. This is the condition that the human race has come to. So all things are going wrong, but in the name of science and technology, in the name of nutrition and food, we are all celebrating different kinds of things. So we have completely failed. The human race has completely failed because we have been just following this Western cultural aspects of making money out of everything. That is the only reason, nothing else. So instead of looking at things as simple as this, that locally grown fauna and flora will suffice, will meet the needs of all living things in that area, including human beings. All living things, not just human beings, including human beings. So, this is the fundamental natural principle which we have eliminated from our thought process and then started producing food in an artificial methods. Like now, the whole world eats rice, wheat, sugar, milk, and meat, and eggs, and chicken. All the things made out of the industrial way of making things. Because to ask anything, these guys keep talking, oh, we are growing in billions, we need to feed the people, we need to feed the people. And this is the only answer you have from this industrial food culture scientists. They don't want to think in any other way. And this is the problem of the present modern world. There is enough food, diversified food materials are present. Instead of understanding the food, word food, we have screwed up in the name of producing food in large quantities and using the word sustainable. Now the sustainable word is most abused word, and that is another problem we have. So all these things arise with the attitude of the human race. It is the problem with the attitude of the human race. So we want at any cost to rob, to what word? I'm searching for a word. Rob is also not enough. The nature, and then think that we can survive into future. No, we are not going to survive into future. With all these problems, we are going to be a completely imbalanced living creature on this planet, if not completely eliminate ourselves sooner or later. So we all need to understand what food is. Food is something which can be digested slowly and steadily. From the mouth to the anus, we have digestive tract, and we are supposed to fill the blood with glucose slowly and steadily. Present day food materials, rice, milk, sugar, that from sugarcane, does fail this test completely. This fails. I mean, we need to release glucose slowly and steadily so that all the biological activities undergo a slow and steady transformation, releasing the energy through the mitochondria of each and every cell and collecting the carbon dioxide back and then releasing through the lungs out. So you collect oxygen, the oxygen goes in, the prana shakti just burns the glucose, gives us energy. And the biological energy, the sun's energy is transformed through the food of various kinds, carbohydrate, protein, fat, everything in a nutshell, packaged in the food form. So the glucose that is synthesized in the plants from the chlorophyll is transformed into various kinds of food, which satisfies in this wonderful transformations for each and every body, be it human being, be it a tiger, be it an elephant, be it a rabbit, be it a bacteria. So all these things put together, God has made in the nature food for everyone. And ultimately, every animal has to burn glucose to derive energy, including human beings. And how we do, depending upon the digestive canal we have. So the hardware and software has to be perfect to be operating on a healthy wavelength. So we have screwed that up. So our pH, our dental structure, and our intestinal structure all clearly indicate that human race has to be based on plant-based food, because we don't have the genes that can operate properly when you have meat, proteins entering our body. And especially if you have more animal protein in the body, it opens up different kinds of genes and different things happen, and we end up becoming cancerous. That means the same cells of human body keeps producing more and more of it and not having control over the regeneration of the same cell. And that's what cancer is. And that's what exactly is this infectious diseases. A virus goes in and takes control of our living cell and starts producing its cells. So cancer and this infectious diseases are on the same page. Only thing is infectious diseases takes over in a short span of time, maybe depending upon the vector, depending upon how effective this virus that is entering us, can happen in a matter of 3 days to 14 days or a maximum of 30 days. So the viral infections, the so-called infectious diseases, and bacteria, it may be little more time. So another kind of infections. So various small microbial world can infect us, pathogenic bacteria, pathogenic amoeba, pathogenic viruses, all these kinds of yeast or whatever. So everything revolves around taking control of the living cells, one type of the other. So what is cancer? Our own cells producing the same kind of without any control, no balance. So losing balance. And this is the essence of disease. So if you lose the fighting nature of all these microbes within your body, it is called immune loss. You lose the immunity. And if you're immune strong, nothing should happen to you. So all these masks, sanitizers are all external. They cannot help you. What can help you? To create the internal immunity in a very strong way. So that means to fight this viral, bacterial, or yeast, or whatever bodies, even if they enter our body, we should be having the defensive mechanism to fight them, to antibodies, that immunoglobulins of various kinds, G, M, and all these technical words do not work. So now you see, we need to be concentrating on how to develop the immunity rather than these kinds of external stuff. So if your immunity is strong, no corona, no H1N1, no H5N1 can disturb your health. So the bone marrow has to be strong enough. So for that, you need the right antigenic properties in your food, not through vaccines. So if you are eating the right diversified antigenic property leaves and vegetables and other things, then you will never have this situation of being falling prey to these viruses or bacteria. So we have figured out, just based on the surrounding fauna, we have come up with 7 kinds of leaves. If you just make decoctions and drink them in an order, you will have your immunity strong. So no virus can disturb. So like this, we have thought in the natural way and strengthened our health. The same way we think and said, we have to figure out some grains which do not release glucose into our blood like flood, and then came up searching and doing experiments on various grains. More than 20 grains we have worked out, and then figured these 5 grains: kodo millet, brown top millet, barnyard millet, little millet, foxtail millet. These 5 millets having fiber from 8% to 12.5%. Foxtail millet has got 8% of fiber. Brown top has got 12.5. Kodo has got 9. Little millet has got 9.8. And barnyard millet has got 10% of fiber. It is not just having good amount of fiber. Many people think this is high fiber. Yeah, you all people are justified in thinking that these grains have high fiber because you have been eating fibers with the grains with no fiber. That is the problem. Your rice and wheat almost zero. Rice has got 0.2 grams and your wheat has got 1.2 grams. That's all. And with the processes that you are involved in food preparation, you remove that fiber also. You have your atta complete zero, and white rice polished minus values, because the carbohydrate is 79 in rice, and when you divide with 0.2, the fiber to carbohydrate to fiber ratio is 395. Whereas these 5 grains, you get it into single digits. Brown top millet is 5 and foxtail millet is 7. So 5 to 7, that's all we have in these 5 grains. So that is the reason why we have the release of glucose into the blood in a slow and steady fashion. And that is how our digestive canal should slowly release blood into the glucose into the blood. So when there is no excess glucose, the metabolic activities slowly and steadily, calmly go through. So your everything is in a nicely orderly fashion. But when you flood your blood with glucose, when you eat rice or wheat or especially sugarcane sugar, the blood is flooded with glucose. Now all the endocrine glands are completely gone Hither, whether, because they do not know what to do with so much glucose. Why? Excess glucose, what it does, it starts absorbing water from every living cells, and so the things start becoming dry. To keep that not happening, the glucose is now transformed into glycogen, cholesterol, triglycerides, rheumatic factors, this factor, that factor, and fat. And the excess of fat starts getting deposited in the blood vessels, in the joints. So all these are preparing the diseases. The sole reason is glucose has been flushed into the blood in a flood-like manner. And that has been happening in the last 50 to 100 years. The confectionery addiction of these Britishers made these sugar estates. And actually, historically, that is the reason why these laborers and then the so-called slavery came into existence. And of course, then rubber estates came, and then a lot of things. So I don't want to dwell into that kind of story and history. Whatever is connected to food, I am trying to connect to you. So the sugar cane production became very huge because it needed a lot of water, irrigation, it needed a lot of fertilizers, and that's when the Second World War ended, and then the war material, the bomb material, got converted into fertilizer. This is the history I'm talking. So they wanted to figure out how do we push these fertilizers, and then they started finding the markets, and then for them this growing rice, wheat, and sugar became a beautiful outlet for this bomb war technologies. So they encouraged all over the world, different governments, this is good for you. We are growing rice, wheat in large quantities. And that's how the so-called food scientists came into existence, pushing this war material into fertilizers, and then came the fertilizer companies. So when you are growing monoculture of a plant, you have invariably the diseases, plant diseases started appearing, insecticides, herbicides, then fungicides, all these big things started appearing somewhere in the years 1970s to even 50s, 1950s to. So this is all things happening together, you understand? So then the biotechnology came in and kicked in this milk, and so green revolution, white revolution, all these big nice sounding words, and then lot of oils. Oh, oils are bad, coconut oil is bad, groundnut oil is bad, because by then the diesel industry came in, refinery oils came into picture, and the mineral oil production started dumping themselves, this refinery industry, where to throw away these mineral oils. And all at a sudden they figured out this can be pushed into packeted, and started selling the oils in the name of refinery oils. And then they are cholesterol free, this free, that free, and then fortification of vitamins, and all this chemical transformations, chemical industry came into picture, and then invaded all the food. So the whole bloody chemical industry just tentacles, and rather, let's say, fungus like rice, everywhere it spread. Now the chemical industry has become food industry. Slowly it transformed itself into, and then the processing came, centralizations came, everything goofed up, and the concept of food is slowly and steadily being thrown out of the window. So present day human race, in the name of technology and science, in the name of food universities, in the name of agriculture universities, have been completely messed up. They don't know what they're eating, basically. It's like God. I think Jesus who said, they don't know what they're doing. Like that, I have to declare, oh God, they don't know what they're eating. And so that means there's complete screw up of human race in the understanding of food, following this Western culture, which is basically an economic model, converting everything into economics. So people, don't mistake me if this is my comprehension, and that's how I started figuring out the right food.
Thank you for watching. If you like the video, please like, share and don't forget to subscribe our channel Dr. Khadar Lifestyle. Press the below bell icon to get notifications.